Today's class on 21st century skills is about literacy. Literacy means that you know of something, you have information or knowledge of something, literacy. And there are three areas that we're going to cover. We're going to cover information literacy, knowing about what is information, where do you find it, what do you do with it. Literacy, to know, to understand. Media literacy, that is, through what media can information be transmitted or transferred. Media literacy. And finally, technology literacy. What kind of technology is emerging today in the 21st century that allows us to use information in a very broad context? Back about 100 years ago, technology literacy might have been signal fires, right? On the oceans 150 years ago, it might be flags. That's a form of media, isn't it? Send information via, they're called semaphores. Semaphores are the same as flags. So we're going to look at all these different dimensions. And by the time we're done, you should have a pretty fair idea of the ways information, what is information, and what media can you find information in, and then what new technologies are emerging in the 21st century that you should become acquainted with, particularly if you're going to go to advanced schooling. Because this is where, when you're doing research or writing papers, this is where all this technology and information and media is going to come in handy. So you have to know what your options are. Now, let's talk about information literacy. If you look at your papers that you got this morning, it's efficient and critical access and evaluation of information. Use information accurately and creatively for resolving issues or problems. I might add that it's not just for solving issues and problems, it's for gaining knowledge, right, on a particular subject. Manage the flow of information from a wide variety of sources. Apply fundamental understanding of the ethical issues associated surrounding access and use of information. And that's also very important. An example of this would be if there is certain private information and that either A, you have access to it because it was given, or B, you just happen to stumble across it. And as part of that information, it says, do not disseminate this, or do not pass this around. Well, ethics would say that you adhere to those guidelines or rules with regard to disseminating or passing that information around. So to critically assess and evaluate and evaluation of information. Let's say that you have a subject that you want to learn, science. Okay? Now, you have a science book, and in that book, you are given the assignment of finding all about water, how it flows, what it's made of, what use is it for not just drinking, but for, let's say, hydroelectric power. You know, what are its uses? Now, in that book, there are many other subjects. many other areas. But your job wasn't to study those areas. Your job was to study about water. So what you've got to do is narrow your focus. Narrow your focus in evaluating what information do I need now. Not that I won't need these others in the future, but what do I need now? So there is an immediacy in many cases for the need and use of information. So you've got to filter out what is not needed at the moment. Same is true of, let's say, news. Let's say you're interested in news about Maharashtra. And you've got a news channel or station here that talks all about Tamil. Well, that's not going to do you much good now, is it? Unless, you want to broaden your knowledge base. But if you have to learn more about this area, you're going to then change the channel or move to another area where the information that you want resides. So here again, we have that filtering mechanism of this universe of information out there. What of it is useful to me now or in the short-term future? Because always remember, information has a short shelf life. Short shelf life. That means it's not that it spoils, it's that its usefulness degrades quickly over time. So you have to basically look at the time frame that you're dealing with. What information do I need? Where do I find it? And then what forms is this information in? Is it in a newspaper? Is it on TV? So we're going to hit these other areas that we talked about. But you've got to begin using critical thinking, right, in this analysis of your information and how to use it, where to find it, how to filter it. So these are things that if you're doing research papers, if you're doing book reports, if you're doing some type of a research on a subject, you're going to be looking around through different types of media for that which you want to know. Manage the flow of information from a wide variety of sources. Well, we just mentioned that, didn't we? If I want to learn about a particular subject, let's say world events in Maharashtra, that's what I want to find out about. Well, you're going to have to manage which sources do I go to find this information. I have many to choose from. Which is the most accurate? Which is more than likely to have what I need? So this is what we talk about in manage the flow, which is how much information I'm taking in. Because even when you find an area that is useful, maybe not all of it is useful. And you're going to read or view a certain amount of information to see how it bears on the subject that you're looking at, how it affects it, how much is going to apply to it. So you need to manage that flow because you could be getting it from so many different sources and it's going to come at you like a train. You have to know what is useful and what is not. Can I use this? And how much of it? That's managing the flow of information. How much of it is useful? So you see, even though it seems like a simple topic on the surface, it can get pretty complicated when you're looking at what do I take, what do I leave, where do I go, how much do I take? So remember these things because you don't want to waste your time on a lot of information that you're not going to be using in the short term. Remember, information has a shelf life. Its utility or usefulness degrades quickly. So if you're going to be using it, use it appropriately and as quickly as you can. Things change. Things change out there in the world. Apply fundamentals of ethics and legal surrounding the access and use. Well, we talked about that a little bit, didn't we? Ethics means your internal ethical or moral behavior. Ethics means your moral behavior. You evaluate certain information on the basis of your moral center. Should I disseminate this? Should I give this out? Or is this sensitive and I should keep it or discard it? So you want to always use your ethical or moral center, even if it's just a touch, to make sure that what you're doing is not only accurate, but is the right thing to do. Are you violating any copyright laws? Right? Are you violating any copyright laws? So these are things that you keep in your mind as you are disseminating information, as you're acquiring information. Media literacy.